You're on the air with Summer Reese.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope this is a recurring opportunity with some regularity.
Thank you. If we could do it once a month, that would be good.
Yeah, if you can bear with it, bring your bottle of aspirin.
No, it's okay. I love the listeners. They're actually terrific.
Anyway, I'm a longtime listener, supporter, and volunteer, and I'll tell you what I've been telling staffers for the last 30-plus years. What I would think of when I think of fund drive as when you mail out those thank you invoices to include an IRS 990. And for the sake of full disclosure and transparency, all salaries from top to bottom. If KPFK wants their hand in my pocket, I want to know where the money's going.
Okay.
Fair enough?
It's fair as an inquiry. Let me be honest. Postage is extraordinarily expensive, and 990s are thick. The 990s are posted on the National Pacifica website at pacifica.org. You can read our 990 and our audited financial statements.
Very good.
They break them down by functional expense categories rather than, say, individual employees, but at least one can get an overview as to the percentage of your donation that goes to, staff salaries versus other areas of operation and overhead. So I would strongly suggest that you go ahead and go to our website and download those financial docs or view them on the site, okay?
Well, that's very helpful, but I, still interested in what individuals, the general manager, et cetera, is actually taking home.
Sure. Generally speaking, only your more highly paid members of an organization have their salaries disclosed. Generally, your sort of rank and file union employees, they don't have their salaries disclosed to the public, but the rank and file don't make that much either. So.
Fair enough. I understand, Summer.
Yes.
But for full disclosure,
sure.
KPFK and the Pacifica always talks about full disclosure and transparency. Now we want them to practice what they
Sure.
preach.
You'd like at least an annual statement that tells you what your top employees are earning. That seems reasonable.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
KPFK Los Angeles, you're on the air with Summer Reese, Pacifica Executive Director.
Hi, this is Linda. I'm a longtime listener since the 70s and a devotee of Roy's show also. I'm really glad that you're on, Summer, and
thank you.
Glad to that. Yes, and this is really great. Okay, my concern is to, of course, grow the station, and I'm particularly concerned with an emphasis on the drive time slot, which is basically from 3 until 7.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it should be dealing with it should be faster tempo, more broader topics that would be of interest to broader topics and more quickly done. Just a faster pace. I noticed that there's some programs they're rather slow and they're sort of dedicated to very niche audiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they should be moved further up toward the evening or earlier in the morning or in the midday. And so I think that would, because that's when people get off work and they're either in their cars or they're on their phone, they're switching around the dial, and that's when we can catch people with things of interest of the day, politics, and things of much broader interest. And if it goes at a little bit faster pace, then we would get more people interested, and that's the way to bring an audience in. And then I think it's really good that programmers have started to pitch their programming during at the change of done promos,
mm-hmm.
so that at that time during drive time you can promo some of the more specific, longer, in-depth programming that we have. And also, as far as fundraising, it's really a drag. I mean, I must have gone through thousands of fund drives since the early 70s, and it's just a real drag. And the thing is, some of the other stations have started this texting. And
yes.
And I think that is a really great idea for two reasons. Number one, I think that we could have people text if you like this program and get an idea of how popular different programs might be. and also text just this minimum amount and get a copy of the program, or just text to appreciate the program, or text to get a copy sent to them. Even if it's $5, that we could do that for individual programs and see how that goes. And also just texting to, if you like what you're hearing, support the station, text for $5. It comes right off your phone bill. And that's all I really have to say. I mean, I could get more specific about specific programs, but I just wish we could just get a little more, as I say, drive time emphasis, a little broad, to pull people in to the program.
Thank you.
Station.
Thank you so much. Well, I'll address those maybe in reverse order. I couldn't agree more about the texting us $5. I actually brought that idea back from Washington, D.C. following the earthquake in Haiti. But I wasn't running the organization then, and I'm afraid it didn't go anywhere. But it's a few years later now, and I agree, especially when we talk about younger listeners who may not have either the inclination or the wherewithal to necessarily subscribe on a yearly basis or send a larger donation. But yes, that immediacy of, did you like what you just heard? Support that program. Text us $5, whether you provide a digital download of something or you're simply asking for support for the program. I think it's potentially a very effective way to raise money in small increments. It addresses the issue of, what about people who can't afford to support at a higher level? Okay, so support at a really small level. But if lots of people did that, we'd be there and we wouldn't have to have long fund drives. And certainly there are things to be addressed in terms of what you call, off-air fundraising strategies, and whether that's on the internet campaigns. I know of a radio station in New Jersey that has a multi-million-dollar budget, and it raises the majority of its revenue online and only has 1 2-week drive per year on the air. Now that's pretty cool, and that isn't going to burn out your listeners. In terms of drive time, yes, those are the types of things that have to be addressed. I feel sometimes, the idea that it's either or in Pacifica. No, there are 24-hour broadcast days and an extraordinarily encompassing mission statement. But in your prime time hours, which in public radio or radio in general, it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. approximately, and your drive time in the morning and the afternoon is when you need to attract absolutely the most listeners and generate the most revenue. And so that's when you should have programming, which, yes, is tightly paced because you have people who are commuting back and forth to work. There are certain expectations. I know I used to commute 200 miles per day in California to go back and forth to work, which meant I spent 4 hours a day in my car driving. I listen to a lot of radio, and that's what people do in California. So what do you want at drive time? You want to be informed about what's going on in the world. Bring me up to speed. Tell me what I missed. Where am I going? What's happening next? What's important? What do I need to know that I otherwise wouldn't find out? And kind of deliver it in a clipped, fast fashion, because I only have so much attention span going on here. There are some certain requirements to those hours of the day. And when it comes to, broader appeal within our mission context, we are never going to appeal to certain segments of the population that aren't going to tune into our radio station in the first place. But we should be able to appeal to a broad cross-section of people that find our mission appealing in those prime time hours. And when you have things which are what you call niche programming, or what I sometimes say more esoteric or aimed at a narrower audience, these things are within the mission context. Our mission wants us to have this programming on the air. It doesn't say you need to put it on in hours that are going to hurt the radio station. If something intrinsically will not attract a larger audience because it's extremely specifically focused, yes, it should be on in another part of the day because you can afford to support it there. The shows that can make money and drive larger audience numbers are the shows that then can pay the bills. So shows which are important but will never be able to generate a large audience can be on the air, can afford to be on the air because they don't have to generate that kind of money. And that's just a sensible evaluation of when your audience is available, who wants to listen to the show, and does it appeal to a larger group of people or a very small group of people. It doesn't make it more important or less important. It's just a practical, factual assessment of how broad is the appeal for this show. And then, of course, the production value issues, yes, things need to sound really good, especially when you want to attract your largest audience, no matter what kind of message you're putting across.
KPFK Los Angeles, you're on the air with Summer Reese, Executive Director. Hello.
Hello. This is good morning, Roy and Summer. I'm
Good morning.
an online listener. Yeah, good morning. And I live in New Orleans. I'm a monthly subscriber with my credit card. And I agree with you. Why I listen, or why I'm here tonight, is your programming. And there's several things. So I love the thing what you're talking about of getting a website where you actually can make programming available for me, because just the variety of KPFK's offerings makes it almost impossible to listen to it online. You'd rather tailor it. But one of the main reason I'm calling tonight, though, is I get this disturbing kind of backbiting between different factions, like whether it's the conspiracy theorists against the ones that say the conspiracy theorists are bad, the Ian Masters against the Gary Null thing, and why are these battles going on and on the air? And it creates cognitive dissonance for me listening to the shows. Like, do I have to choose? And, it's really a problem. And then also, the ones that are the shows that are kind of like rigidly in one little box. People have trouble with those, that they don't. It's this hand wringing that you hear all the time from somebody who's online. It's just kind of it's bothersome to me, and it's almost as bothersome as the fundraising that you have to hear all the time. But those are the questions. If you could address that, why this programming wars are going on.
Sure.
And, okay.
Thank you. Well, I'm afraid sometimes I think in sometimes limited environments, people jockey for perceived power, and that is unfortunate. I don't see the need for anyone to be negative, because I philosophically don't come from a place where other people have to agree with me for them to have a right to exist or speak. Some of it has to do with the live and let live attitude of not needing to convert other people to your viewpoint in order to tolerate their presence. And I think that if one is fortunate enough to have access to one of the largest broadcast signals in the country, you ought to have something good to say about what you think is important. Why are you on the air? It certainly shouldn't be to slam somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, why waste your breath that way? But on a deeper level, organizationally, it's obviously destructive. I gave this illustration yesterday. I said, or Sunday, you don't ever see the Friends of the Library doing a book sale saying, well, we're selling these books because those people at the library were too stupid to put them on the shelf, so why don't you buy these because they really don't know what they're doing. No, they say we're selling these books because we love this library and we want to see it supported. Here, donate some money because this place is great. It rocks. And that's the attitude that should be going on the air with everyone. And some of it, I think, comes from a sort of, political, ideological rigidity. I mean, never mind that people might purposely be, destructive. Okay, yeah, all right. That might account for a little percentage. But some people are so threatened by people that don't agree with them that they feel the necessity to put them down and say, I am right. I have the answer, not an answer. And clearly, our mission says many people with many answers shall come together and discuss why they think they've got the right solution. That's who we are, and that's what we're supposed to be. Never mind, we were founded by a pacifist, so half of the rest of this stuff completely doesn't make sense. But yes, it's destructive. It's damaging to the listeners because, in my humble opinion, most listeners do not want to hear this sort of infighting because it's like watching a family fight. Everyone wants to walk away and say, I don't want to look over there and see that. When you all are done, you let me know, and I'll come back because this isn't socially acceptable. And it's not acceptable on a business level. You don't use your resources to tear down your organization. You don't ask the public for money and then slam the other people that were asking for money. You're saying, we've got something of value here, support it. You can't 5 minutes later say, well, what I do is of value, but those other people on here, they're really not that great. It's not okay on so many levels. And it's something that I seek to change. My universe doesn't work that way. My universe can encompass people who completely disagree with each other. I have been on so many political demonstrations. I love engaging the opposition. I have broken down NAFTA and GATT for Minutemen to explain immigration. And by the time I am done, they are agreeing with me that we need to deal with Congress because the trade agreements aren't working. But that takes a complicated level of analysis. It's not a knee-jerk reaction. The political condition of the world is complicated. And to simply say, those are the bad guys, these are the good guys, is a completely inadequate political discussion, whether you're talking about the larger world or you're talking about the internal political environment of an organization. Nothing is that simple. And perhaps one person simply sees the world differently or thinks one set of issues is important, and someone else says an entirely different set of issues is important. I've been a vegetarian since I was 13 years old. Lots of other people aren't. Apparently, I think that's important to me. Somebody else doesn't. But I don't need to preach to the person next to me who's eating meat. If that's your life, that's your life. That's how it is about political matters as well. If you're interested in one subject, you're interested in that. Maybe you like classical music, maybe you like jazz, maybe you like rock and roll, maybe you're like me and you like all of them. So it's in many ways it's putting back in the forefront and center what is the mission statement. The mission statement is this all-inclusive document that says we shall bring people together to discuss, to debate, and to cover many, many different things, not bring them together so they can tear each other down and be as negative as many parts of the outside world. So it comes down to insisting on adhering to standards and a more positive outlook, it really does. And bringing up everyone's attitude about what makes for good radio and what serves the public. Again, back to if you always take it out of yourself and you put it back onto what would be good for you, if you don't think about how do I feel about this, but what do I think my audience would like, what will serve their interests, what will serve their needs, what will inform them, whenever you step outside of yourself and become less selfish in your own viewpoint, you automatically do better things. And that's what has to happen here. Our job is to serve the public. And everyone who comes into the broadcast studio, that should be the very first thing they have on their mind. What am I doing today that is edifying to the world? What am I doing today that will increase consciousness? What am I doing today to open one more mind of one more listener on something that I think is important for them to think about?
KPFK Los Angeles, you're on the air with Summer Reese, Pacifica Executive Director.
Yes, hi. I am going to be specific because some of the things that I have heard recently are very disturbing. I am neutral on this particular thing that I'm going to address, but there is a large contingent of people who actually support the station very strongly, and that is that people have not been disappointed about Alan Minsky, and apparently he is somebody who is up for being terminated. I also think that Ian Masters is very important. I've heard that his position is threatened or his programming. He does do current affairs. He has excellent people on, and he's on at drive time. I personally think the drive time programming is fine the way it is, including the morning program is excellent. All of the people that are on the morning are doing current affairs and are very good. So I would appreciate your addressing, if you can, these rumors that Ian Masters' show is threatened and that Alan Minsky's position is threatened. Again, I don't know that much about him, but I know that there's a large delegation who are upset about that.
Thank you, ma'am. Obviously, I can't really discuss employment or personnel matters on the air, as I'm sure you understand. No one is threatened in terms of that use of terminology. I understand that there have been many rumors going around about many different things. There was a PD selection process, and there were finalists and candidates in that pool.
What is PD?
Oh, I'm sorry. Program director. I apologize. I'm sorry. One gets so used to inside speak sometimes on abbreviations. It's like CSG, CPB, PD, the program director. Anyway, the local station board, the bylaws mandate the local station boards to participate in creating both general manager and program director pools of candidates from which finalists are selected for permanent positions. Mr. Minsky has been in an interim capacity for an extended period of time, and the local station board did make such a pool, and selection process and anything that will happen next will be done according to the law and to the recommendations of the board according to the bylaws. In terms of Mr. Masters, there are no plans afoot regarding his show. I'm afraid that, as is so frequently the case in life, one creates one's own reality, and the only thing for which anything has been done has to do with on-air disparagement, which is, these are policies which exist around the network, which refers directly back to the previous caller, which is, do you allow people to use the airwaves to tear down their colleagues, their coworkers, and the organization? And the answer fundamentally is no. One should not allow that. And over the course of, both the National Board has non-disparagement policies, there are on-air broadcast policies, and various programmers are disciplined at various points if they violate those policies or obscenity rules or plugola or payola. And so all of these things, when someone may or may not be disciplined, has to do, frankly, with their own on-air conduct. But in terms of, I'm the one who put Ian Masters on in New York, so I really can't say anything more about that, but there are no plans regarding his show.
Okay, thank you. And
Thank
the
you.
other thing is that I've heard that Gary Null is going to be promoted heavily, and he is, in my opinion, his own self-promoter and very grandiose and self-aggrandizing, so I hope he will not be a drive-time person. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. And again, those are erroneous rumors. We obviously use various people during Fund Drive who are quite effective, and Gary has been one of those people, but there have been no specific plans regarding anything to do with long-term programmatic changes at this station. Gary Null does have a regular show on in New York City every day, 5 days a week, but that's been on the air there for about 30 years. But thank you so much for your comments, and there are no drastic plans to change any of our programmatic content. Everything in terms of improvement needs to be done alchemically and subtly anyway in order to be effective. One can't just come in and swipe programming off. And I respect the mission, which encompasses, again, it's not just politics, it's culture, it's art, it's music, health and spirituality. Like, there's something for everyone in terms of finding things that are on our airwaves that they are not going to find somewhere else. Various truths that speak to different audiences.
And it is important to take stock of your sources of information and don't let them keep feeding you. That's what the Tea Party does.